Can you walk us through your journey from being in full-time ministry to starting your own marketing agency?
Ooh, do we have 10 hours? If we don't,
We can stream it out.
I'll give you the paraphrase version. So, long story short, I grew up pretty in a pretty non-religious home, pretty traditional home, not one that was very religious nor very entrepreneurial, which makes my journey here that much more remarkable. But I end up joining a church when I first start college. I really dive into God and my relationship with God. Eventually, I become a minister in that church while in school, end up getting married, having a child. While I thought of ministry more as something that was going to be more like a part-time thing, something that I do in the evening, had desires to becoming a teacher, right? But eventually my pastor, who I was very close to and had a close relationship with, he was very influential in having me come on board. It was a growing church at the time, and he thought it would be a great opportunity with my family growing and everything like that to dive in and to join the staff to just an incredible salaried position with all of the great
Full-time
benefits.
staff.
So I ended up doing that. There were a lot of highs and a lot of lows in that experience for the first 4 years. End up after a lot of stuff that we could probably get into, if not this episode, definitely in future episodes. End up moving to California for 2 years, and it was there that I went and decided to start my own marketing agency, more as just a way of supplementing income. But after a few years of testing out different approaches and different niches, I was able to find a path into really making it a full-time venture and growing it to becoming six figures and above. And that's what kind of led us here. So that's a very, very short version of that.
Abbreviated,
But
yeah.
yeah, long story short, that's how I ended up where I'm at now.
That sounds like quite the journey. It's amazing how life's twists and turns could lead us down a path that we weren't even expecting to be on. Can you tell us about a pivotal moment or experience that shaped your decision to start agency? Because going from ministry, evangelizing to online, that seems like a big switch.
Definitely. I think around 2017 or so, I was probably at my lowest point in life, period. Just in every single facet that you can think of, whether it was emotionally, physically, financially. I was just in a really, really low point. And I wasn't really sure where my life was going to turn to. I was making really low money, had just had a baby girl not too long ago. Everything from getting eviction notices about my
Wow,
apartment because I
pressure.
couldn't pay the rent, getting repossessed, getting cars repossessed, just everything that you could think of that a person can deal with, I was dealing with at the time. And I think at that point, I'm 33 now. That was what, 7 years ago? So I was, what, 26 at the time? Yeah, 26. So yeah, I was still young, but it was just a really dark place, man. And you have all these aspirations, right, of what your life is going to be and what you are going to do and what you're going to be able to accomplish. And you sort of see yourself and you feel stuck. You literally feel like you have no hope. You're like, how is any of this going to work out? You're praying and you don't know where to go, where to turn. You feel like you're doing something that God called you to do, but you're like, why would God call me to something that was basically going to put me and my family in poverty? And you have no real place of hope or no real place to turn. And I remember, and you were, you had a front row view of this entire experience. And I remember we went on this journey down to Naples where I was able to meet your mentor at the time, Paul Getter. It was so funny going down there and meeting someone who had an almost identical experience as I did. He also was full-time in ministry, had an issue at his church, ended up in a similar position where he was really low on income and really distressed, and he found a way through eventually building a multi-million dollar agency to still be able to do ministry while at the same time being able to support his family and ultimately build generational wealth. And we went down there and he shared his story. He shared some of what allowed him to do that. And that's all I really needed at the time. Like I just needed to know that it was possible.
There's a light.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
And I can say that my journey into this would look different than his, but I think at the same time, just knowing that it was not going to be like this forever, if you just pivoted and found a way that there was a way that you can get into it. And honestly, that was the seed that I needed as we eventually transitioned over into California, which allowed me to be in a different environment. And I'm not going to say that it was just like one snap of the finger and all of a sudden I'm living, my best life and just doing all these things. It was like really small steps in that direction. And eventually I feel like the pandemic had a lot to do with it. All of these various things that happened allowed me the opportunity to eventually get to where I am now.
So you went from Florida to California. You know how many states in between that, brother? What possessed you? What was the reason why you felt like, hey, I've got to move across the country, and all the courage that it took to make that transition, leaving everything behind? And what are some of the challenges that you faced along the way? And how did you turn them into opportunities?
I'm going to be as transparent as I can, right? Because I'm not going to sugarcoat this, right? The reason why we moved to California was because my mom was living there. And she's the only person at that point that would let us stay with her. Praise God for moms who still believe in us, even when no one else does. So we had that, and we just needed a new environment at the time. Our current environment was just, it just became, I hate to call it toxic, but it kind of felt toxic because the people that we were underneath, we just felt like weren't really listening or really concerned with the real situation that we were dealing with, and we needed a change. So we're like, you know what? Let's just move to California. Let's start over. Let's see if we can build something out there. And to be honest, it was a great experience. The church we end up joining really became a stable environment for us, which is really what we needed. We were able to build lifelong friends, and it was there that we were really able to put the foundation in place to build the business that we currently operate today.